Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Sorry, my cat is throwing a fit right now.
Oh
So
yeah, might
Mhm.
have some guest appearances.
Right. So we might hear her losing her mind a few times. Um
Okay.
there it is. But yeah, she
No,
should be
it's
quiet for the most part.
really faint. Yeah, I wouldn't have noticed if you didn't point it out.
Okay.
If anything, it'll make a more interesting interview if she makes a guest appearance behind you. we might go
Exactly.
viral if she does something funny.
I mean, in that character, it
Yeah.
totally works.
So, where are you right now?
I am currently in Los Angeles, California.
Oh, okay. So we're not too far. I'm in LA too. Over in Highland Park
Oh,
right now.
awesome. Yeah, I'm up in I'm like, I don't know if you know where Tahunga is, but it's
Yeah.
like over the mountain from
Yeah.
Burbank. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Nice. All
that's
right.
nice. Basically just inching closer to the fires,
Yeah.
basically.
Is there fires again? Oh no.
I mean I know that there's been those north of like north of Arcadia that have been in
Hmm.
like Angeles National Forest, which is like not too far from here. But yeah, it hasn't been too bad. Luckily, like it was just the worst, I think a month or two ago up here. But it's gotten
Yeah,
a lot
yeah,
better.
yeah. You
So
got a lot more
I'm
greenery over there to a lot more fuel over near Tahunga.
exactly. Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. Really stoked to talk to you and hear about your story. It sounds like you got some real cool tales you can tell us.
Thank you for having
So
me.
looking
Yeah.
forward to it. So I know you got started playing music at a really early age. Were you started at 5 years old, or is that right?
I did. Basically, the story is when I was about 5 years old, my parents bought the game Rock Band
Uh
on
huh.
our Wii.
Uh huh.
And I mean, I was way more of a Rock Band fan than Guitar Hero. I was always going for Rock Band, but
Mm-hmm.
basically they got the game and I was always drumming. Like every time we played it, I always wanted to play the drums.
Nice.
Um, and I would get like really good scores on drumming. I mean, obviously the Rock Band drum set is not the same to an actual drum set,
Yeah.
but it was a start. And I had tried soccer, but I didn't like it when they took the ball away from me. So sports wasn't my thing. I tried dancing, which kind of worked, but I just wasn't interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
But really, there was just something about music where, I mean, just in this, oh, sorry, just in, I mean, just playing the game and being immersed into music and having that experience really changed something in me and just really affected me in this way where my parents were like, huh, maybe music is her thing. Maybe this is what she wants to do. So they signed me up for drum lessons at the
Mm-hmm.
School of Rock in Dallas, Texas, which is where I'm from originally. They signed me up for lessons.
Okay.
I started going, and immediately, first day, I learned how to play Back in Black by
Nice.
AC/DC.
Right. If you can
Um,
play that song on drums, you can pretty much play a million other drum songs, rock songs, right?
Exactly. As long as you know like the meat and potatoes and drumming, if you can just play a steady groove, I
Yep.
mean, you can go far.
Hmm. Did you feel like the rock band prepped you? Like, did you actually get some real rhythm training from the rock band game?
I feel like I did. I mean, in the end, music is just kind of learning, like when you're learning to play an instrument, I feel like just learning the rhythms and learning to be able to count and kind of
Hmm.
understanding. Like in drumming, it's really just groups of four. So it's like the snare on two and four and the kick on one and three. It's just
Right.
like, I feel like drumming is just, I mean, math has always been one of my favorite subjects too. So I think that actually helped me a lot.
Yeah, it's supposed
Um,
to.
where it's just yeah, being able to just subdivide and just taking each beat and then connecting it to the music and just kind of learning to understand rhythms. I mean, just listening to music can help that a lot. So I think it definitely helped me.
There you go. An endorsement for Rock Band right there.
Exactly.
Marley got her start on Rock Band.
Yes.
So you went to School of Rock in Austin, you said, and picked up drums, and so were you playing drums exclusively for a while, or did you quickly pick up some other instruments?
So I was initially just playing drums. And then kind of as I went along, I knew that I wanted to pick up other instruments and work on them. But the rule in our family was that I could learn new instruments, but I had to spend at least a year on each one. So that
Mm,
way I could at least like develop some sort of general vocabulary in that instrument where it wouldn't just be like, oh, well, I can kind of play two chords on guitar.
okay.
Um,
They
like
wanted
basically
you
the
to
rule in
be
the
a
manual.
master and not a jack of all trades, kind of.
Exactly. Just kind of be able to make my way around each instrument. So,
Hmm.
I mean, pretty much, I think maybe 2 years after drumming, I started learning bass,
Hmm.
which I feel like is like the correct stringed instrument. Like, if you're a drummer and you kind of want to move into the stringed instruments, I feel
Yeah.
like bass is like a really good next one to go to,
Hmm.
just because I feel like those are really connected through rhythm, and that's kind of a good way to transition to guitar.
Totally.
Because I know when I first started playing guitar, the strings were super thin and I was like, this is just hurting my fingers.
Hmm.
But just kind of being able to start with bass first allows you to sort of step into it with already some experience being in rhythm already from drumming.
Sure. Sure.
um
Bass
but I
can hurt your fingers too, though, right?
bass can too. The thing is with bass, I mean, the strings are thicker,
Hmm.
so it's not as like thin and doesn't really hurt for me personally as much.
Okay.
But of course, I mean, I've been playing guitar for several years now, so I've gotten more comfortable with it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, at this point, I can play drums, guitar, bass, piano, ukulele. I know the theme to the Pirates of the Caribbean and Harry Potter on flute. Um,
Nice.
and I can play the flute while hula hooping. That was kind of my talent for a period of time. That was
Uh-huh.
like my one trick pony thing where it
Hmm.
was like if I
Was
was
your
ever
party
going,
trick?
yeah, it was like if I was ever talking to somebody and they were like, "Well, what's like a weird cool talent that nobody knows you have?" I was like, "Well, I can play the dun 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 dun
Mm.
dun 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 and hula hoop at the same time around the room."
Speaking
I
of viral videos, that sounds like one right there. That sounds like a TikTok waiting to happen.
you know what? I was before my time. I
Yeah.
should have been I should have been doing that on TikTok. Yeah.
Hmm. So, so quite a number of instruments. What would you say the limit was? You had to do it for a year or a certain amount of months?
Yeah, the rule was at least a year before you move on to another one.
Okay. So, and I guess that's, your parents saying, "Hey, we're not going to buy you a million instruments. You got to at least show some dedication to it before we buy you a new instrument." I assume that's part
Yeah.
of where that came from.
I think, yeah. I mean, in the end, my parents have always been incredibly supportive. I mean,
Hmm.
just throughout this whole time, like it's astounding to me just seeing how much that they've like sacrificed and how much they've done for me. I mean, there was a period of time where like my mom and I, because I mean, I'm from Dallas initially, and when I first started coming out to LA in the beginning and like really starting to push my career, it was just my mom and I because my mom could work remotely, but my dad couldn't.
Mm.
So it would be like our family would end up being split for months at a time. And then we would see each other for holidays and he would come for a couple weeks when he could. But it was just like, it was really tough for a period of time where we just really were kind of split for a few years until I finally had enough going on in my career out here. And my mom was like able to find a job out here where my dad was finally like, you know what, I'm packing the cats. We're moving to LA. We're gonna do this. Like we'll be there full time. But it's just they've always been incredibly supportive. Like I tell them I want a steel drum, and they'll be like, I mean, if you're ready to put in the work, we'll get you a steel drum, and then I'll learn Under the Sea from the Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
exactly, yeah. But yeah, they've always been incredibly supportive because they know that like if they do when they do these things for me, they know that I'm going to push as hard as I can to make that investment and that sacrifice worth it for them.
That's awesome. So you're learning all of these instruments and you're young and do you start posting stuff of you playing? Do you get like a band together? How did you start playing music with other people and actually showing people that you could play music?
Well, I first started, I mean, oh my gosh, I think I started drumming before Instagram was a thing, which
Hmm.
makes me feel so old.
Oh, you
I
are so
basically
old, 18 years old now. I don't know if it's 19 now, but yeah.
it's 18,
Sarcasm.
yeah.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, when I first started going to School of Rock in Dallas, the cool thing about School of Rock is when you first start, you take lessons, you take private lessons in the instrument of your choice.
Hmm.
And then they do these things called season shows, where basically it's kids, I don't know what the age range is, but I mean, I was 6, and I would be in the season shows. They just kind of have a list of like 20 songs in a certain genre or band or decade of music, and then they assign the different kids that are signed up for that show to the different instruments. So that basically gives you the ability to learn different songs. You have to learn to support your other bandmates, and then you're put in different bands, basically
That's
like in
cool.
different mini bands for 1 or 2 songs at a time.
Yeah.
Which really kind of introduced me to the band aspect and introduced me to a lot of other people. And the cool thing was that I wasn't limited by my age, because you would go to these shows, because we would do performances at the end of like 3 months at just different clubs around Deep Ellum in Dallas. It's like I would be
Hmm.
6 years old playing at bars that I shouldn't be in, and becoming friends with all the bartenders, because they would be like, "Oh my gosh, there's that little girl behind the drums again."
Uh-huh.
But I mean, it would just be me and then a bunch of like 13 to 15-year-old boys. It was just like
Hmm.
kind of this crazy experience, but just a really nice way to kind of introduce me into the music industry in a way that I feel like is really hard for kids to be able to be immersed in, where it doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter like what your gender is, it doesn't matter what your experience is or your age. Like, you can go in, and if you know what you're doing, like, there should be no question of your
Sure.
talent.
I was about to
um
say, being that young, did you feel like you were holding your own, or were you feeling pressure, or were you so young that you didn't even kind of realize that there should be pressure? What was going through your head during those shows?
I mean, I never really felt any pressure. I've kind of been an introvert, and like I'm a very like I get very nervous. I'm not good at talking to people, like just
Hmm.
going up to people. I've kind of had to create that personality in my head where I can just go out and be outgoing and engage with people, but something about music and being on the stage has kind of just put me in a different persona, where it's just like I don't really have those fears. So the pressures of music and like stage fright I never really went through. I think the first time I really felt like the differences and like judgment for my age was actually I was in this Led Zeppelin cover band when called Zeppos.
Mm-hmm.
And it was me. I started when I was like 7, and it was me and 2 boys, and
Hmm.
we were playing shows all the time. Basically, we met at School of Rock and then started doing a lot of shows for School of Rock, and then we would start getting like hired and paid to play at other places. But we were playing at like this airplane museum or something in
Hmm.
Dallas,
Hmm.
and we got there, and I want to say maybe I was 9 at the time, I think, at the show. And we get to the gig, and we have all of our stuff, and we get there, and there's this band that plays after us, and it's all adults.
Hmm.
And they're playing covers, like party covers, like Sweet Caroline, just like all the classic party songs that everybody can sing along to.
Uh-huh.
And we get there, and there's this huge stage setup, and we're so excited, and we're ready to like unload our gear up on that stage. And they just go, "No, you're not going to play up here. You're going to set up on the floor." So we
Mm.
basically had to put a carpet down
Hmm.
next to this huge stage and
Who
set
said
up our
that?
gear.
The band said that, or
The
the
band
venues?
said that.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. And it was just like, I think that was really the first time where I was like, "Oh, wow. I'm I'm being considered less than
Hmm.
by people who have never even heard us play before."
Hmm.
And they're just assuming, "Oh, they don't know what they're doing because they're so young. They don't get it." And
Right.
so I just kind of look at the boys, and I'm like, "All right, well, let's prove them wrong." I
Hmm.
mean, what else are you going to do in that situation? So we set up our stuff on a carpet, because I learned early on I had to bring a carpet to set up my drums on, because I played at a roller derby once when I was like 6, and my drums kept sliding on the
Hmm.
slick floor.
Hmm.
Um, but we set up our stuff, and we start playing, and my tiny 9-year-old self ends up snapping one of my drumsticks
Oh no.
while we're playing.
Uh-huh.
And the drummer from the other band just runs up to me and hands me one of his sticks.
That's
And
nice.
that moment was just kind of like, all right, this kind of settled it. Like, we're equals. Just because we're
Hmm.
younger than you doesn't mean that we can't play music or we don't know what we're doing. And in the end, at the end of the show, they came up to us and they apologized and said, you know what, we were in the wrong and we shouldn't have doubted you guys. Which,
Mm.
in the end, you're always going to have those experiences. But I feel like what I've learned is there are always going to be people who are going to judge you for aspects of yourself that you can't control. So, in the end, the best way to kind of overcome those obstacles is to just do your best and show them who you really are. So then at the end, they realize that they're in the wrong.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you proved them wrong. I think there was probably also a little element of they were taking advantage of the fact that thinking you were green enough to just do whatever they told you to do. You know what I mean?
exactly.
You could have been great. They might have known you were great, but they still might have known that they could maybe in some ways kind of bully you a little bit off the stage and make it easier for
Right.
them, you know. And that happens, you
Totally.
know, all the time, I think, at shows, regardless of age, but no doubt that that played a part in it. So
Oh,
you
yeah.
start playing. I mean, so you're getting this crazy experience at like a crazy young age, and I guess it's probably just becoming second nature to you. So, I how did you go from playing like these little shows to, from what I read, playing Lollapalooza and South by Southwest?
So basically kind of the timeline is, I mean, I was playing clubs around Dallas, just joining bands and getting to play at bigger shows around Dallas. But it wasn't till I came to LA, and I met this girl. We started this band called Pretty Little Demons, which is
Hmm.
now known as The Regrets. We had started this band, and I think we recorded our first album, I think 2 weeks later.
Hmm.
Um, and really, like, once I started working in LA and really felt like I was pushing for my career, I mean, I was able to play in like national Target commercials. I did like a commercial for Dole. I was just kind of like creating my repertoire and my like kind of resume as a drummer.
Yeah.
Um, to the point where we had basically the band that I was in, we were recording a ton. We finally decided, like, we pitched ourselves to South by Southwest, and we ended up being able to play as, like, I think it was the youngest band that year. That may have changed at this point. Um, but we were the youngest band ever when we went to play there, and I think I was maybe 10 or 11 years old.
Wow.
Just because, I mean, really in music out here, it's just you have to just put yourself out there. You have to
Hmm.
just send your stuff to people. You just have to push and push and push, and you're going to get so many no's, but that one person's going to say yes, and that's all you need.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's really what happened. Is we tried to get into South by, they let us in, and we played, I think, 6 shows in 4 days. And that's where we ended up meeting this band P-Lander Z, who are still like some of my favorite people to this day. If you've never heard of them, it's like Japanese action comic book punk band is how they
Nice.
describe themselves. It's like
Hell yeah.
punk music, but they're dressed as like Power Rangers. It's amazing.
Sounds
And
amazing.
it's really like they were like a known band for playing at South by, and they had like their own Peelander Fest that they would do, and so we got to play with them, and then we ended up getting to, was it the Roxy? We got to open up for them at the Roxy. Then we were playing
Nice.
shows everywhere and just getting able to being able to play around clubs. And we recorded another album,
And
and
that was
then
with the
about,
Regrets still.
yes.
Or were you or were you still known as
So yeah, at this
previously?
time we were still known as Pretty Little Demons.
Right.
And I think about a year after we had recorded another album, I mean, we did a music video with Allison Mossart, which was crazy. That was a crazy experience. It was just like, okay, like we're going up, like we're making connections.
Yeah.
And we're finally like, all right, we should do like a tour of America. And
Hmm.
so we talked to I mean, I don't know if you've heard of like the girls rock camps around the US, where they basically, it's kind of like school of rock, but it's like more of the summer camp things where it's just a bunch of girls coming together learning to play instruments together. And so
Hmm.
we managed to be able to do, what was it, a 2 week tour, where we went around to different girls rock camps around the nation, and we just played lunchtime sets for them, and we
Nice.
would play shows for them and play our music and answer questions and talk to them about growing up in the music industry and like learning how to kind of overcome that sometimes gender discrimination in
Mm-hmm.
music. And then we ended up, I think it was about towards the end of our tour, we got to play Lollapalooza, which was insane.
Yeah.
It was such a crazy experience.
Yeah.
But really, it was just like this snowball effect where it's just like the more places you get out and you're playing, no matter how small, it just, they always kind of snowball into bigger things. Um,
Was
so
that
we ended
mostly
up,
on the East Coast, your summer camp thing? Because that's summer camps are more of like an East Coast thing than they are on the West Coast. I mean, there are still summer camps here, but did you find
yeah,
yourselves at a lot of camps mostly on the East Coast, or was it kind of all over?
I'm trying to remember. I feel like most of them were like Midwest and East Coast. I'm trying to remember.
That makes
Um,
sense.
but yeah, I think it was more East Coast. Thinking about that, I've never actually thought about that before. Like summer camps being more on the West Coast. I don't think I've ever
Yeah, I learned
contemplated.
that a while ago. We was having a conversation. I forgot the rationale behind that, but yeah, I mean, it's really a heavy in the East Coast culture, but not so much with people I grew up with.
Yeah.
So Lollapalooza, that was kind of like the huge cherry on top of a little tour that you did with to these summer camps, which
Yeah.
was like perfect demographic for you guys.
Yeah.
And so where'd you go after that? After touring with Pretty Little Demons?
So after that, wow, it's so crazy. It's just kind of going through my life chronologically here. So we
Yeah.
got back from tour. We worked on some more music. I want to say this is maybe like October 2013 or 14. Um, we decided to change the name. We had changed the name to The Regrets.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got approached by this band, Jack Off Jill,
Mm-hmm.
from I believe it was Miami, and they were doing like a reunion tour or something, and they were going to the UK, and they asked us to open up for them, which was crazy. So then I'm like 12 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to the UK, and we're playing different shows around London. And while I was basically out on tour in the UK, I got contacted by a rep at Sony Music, basically saying Louis Tomlinson and Simon Cowell are making a girl band, and we want you to drum in it.
Nice.
And so I was just like, you know what? Like it's really hard because I mean, I feel like this applies to any profession. There's certain times where it's like you're in a good situation, you're in a good place, you're in a stable place that you've been at for a while,
Sure.
and you know that good things will come from it. But it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of figuring out, okay, have I reached my ceiling in this aspect?
Mm-hmm.
Like, could I go further? If I move to this new opportunity, is that going to take me higher, or do I want to stay where I am, where I'm comfortable?
Sure.
And there was like there was a time a while ago where I was kind of in a similar position where I like did I want to stay in the same place or go higher, and I think I chose to stay. And then I saw like I feel like it's really hard being in entertainment where it's like you're stuck between two choices and then you pick one and then you watch where the other one went, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh my gosh, where would my life be right now if I had gone that other way?
Right. Right.
um and I really didn't want to, I didn't want to pass up the opportunity and then just wonder for the rest of my life where I would have
Sure.
been.
Yeah.
And so it was tough because in the end, the regrets, it was just the two of us. And so it it was a tough experience having to leave that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I ended up leaving the band, signing with Sony,
Mm-hmm.
and it was an incredible experience. I mean, they were signing us up, they were putting us in sessions every day of the week with incredible writers and producers like Justin Tranter and J.R. Rodham and Jesse St. John. I mean, they were putting us in with everybody, which really kind of gave me the opportunity over about a year and a half, I want to say, just to expand my knowledge of songwriting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because
Sure.
for so long it's like I was writing sometimes with the regrets, but it was really during this opportunity that I was learning to write and learning the aspects of songwriting and pop and in genres, and just kind of learning as much as I could from all these people who are kicking butt at it.
Yeah.
Um, so after about 2 years. That project didn't end up working out, but in the end, it was just like, even though it didn't work out, I got so much from that.
Sure,
Um,
massive experience.
exactly. And something that I always kind of like to keep, like the one kind of motto that I always keep is like, one door closes, another door opens,
Yeah.
which I really feel like represents so much of my life to this
Mm-hmm.
point. Just because, the project didn't end up working out. And so I I think the project stopped actually at the end of my freshman year of high school. Um, so I finished my freshman year of high school, and then I was like,
It's
well,
so
what am
funny
I?
hearing you talk about these big life choices and how you've had multiple life choices, and in your career you went one way and you could have went the other way, and then the next time it's just, and then you're like, and then I was in freshman year of high school. So it's just, it's hilarious. You're talking like someone who's, been in the industry all their life, and you have all your life, but you're,
Yeah,
you started so young that you've had such a head start, ahead of people, who may have started when they were in freshman year or
yeah.
later. So but yeah, so you enter freshman year and
So yeah, so I finished my freshman year. And at that point, I had been in so many bands. I had done the band thing. I was like,
hmm
you know what? F the band concept.
hmm
I kind of just want to do my own thing and just see what happens. Because now that I've been in music for so long and I was learning how to play different instruments
hmm
and kind of building my career as a musician, not just as a drummer,
yeah,
I really felt like then I had the ability. Well, if you want to do your own thing and try doing a solo project, you can, because you've built like this whole career just as a musician, not as a drummer. So my dad helped me make a studio in the basement of our house, and I bought Ableton and just kind of started fiddling with it and figuring out
hmm
how to produce.
yeah,
And I ended up making some beats. I ended up writing my own project. I made an EP that I had written, recorded, produced, mixed, everything. Like everything on that EP I had done myself. And that was really my first project that was just me, which can be really scary in the industry, because something that I noticed was, as you go through projects and go through different bands and stuff like that, I mean, it's all groups. So it's like it's not as vulnerable, because once it's just a solo project, it's like, well, if you don't like it, it's just because of me that you don't like it. Or if
hmm
there's something wrong with it,
sure,
it's just me.
hmm
Like that's just such a more vulnerable position to be in
hmm
music, which I hadn't really experienced yet, just because I always had other people around me.
sure,
So I released the EP. I played some shows. I was just kind of starting to get more comfortable. I mean, this was my first time being in front of the drum set and being at the front of the stage. And it's like, wow, people can see my legs now. I should probably think about like what shoes I'm wearing now.
hmm
Um, put some more style in that, because I mean, I was just always behind a drum set.
uh-huh,
And I was playing shows, writing a ton, and I got contacted by a writer that I had worked with during the Sony project.
hmm
And she basically just hit me up and was like, hey, if you're if you're trying to figure out what you want to do, you should consider going into top lining, like
hmm
songwriting, top lining.
hmm
And I, I was interested. So we met up, we did a writing session together. She was like, you know what, I'm going to introduce you to my manager, and then he can help you with some sessions and finding people to work with and start finding your teams.
right.
And
And
so
top lining, for people who don't know what that means, that's essentially people have music but they need to put a vocalist over it or something like that, right? That's what you're
exactly.
talking about. Okay.
Yeah, so it was mainly when I first started writing like when I had first started, it was just writing for other people. So it
hmm
wasn't even for my own artist project. It was just like I had that EP that I put out and I was doing stuff for myself, but mainly it was just going into sessions with artists or just with a producer or another writer and producer and just writing songs for other people, not for myself.
right.
Um, and so I met with her manager. He ended up becoming my manager, and we still work together. He is my favorite person. He's
Nice.
incredible. I mean, he's just so incredibly dedicated, and it's just that one door closes, another door opens. It's just so
Yeah. Yeah, I
many.
was going to say, besides the experience that you gained, I mean, you probably met so many people there too,
Oh yeah,
which obviously led to this.
yeah. And yeah, so basically, um, my manager and I, he would throw me in sessions every day, 5 days a week. If I get a day off, I call him like crying. I'm like, do people hate me now? Like, what is happening? Because I always need to be working. I always want to be working towards something, just because if I sleep and I take too much time to rest, then I'm falling behind. Because this is
Hmm.
just such like it's a race. Like, you gotta just go and keep working and put out as much content as you can. So I was writing all the time. I still do. And finally some producers started telling my manager, they were like, if she ever wants to do like her own artist project, like we'll do sessions with her for her own stuff if she
Hmm.
wants to try doing that. And I thought about it for a while, and I realized, I think there was just something about that idea, just kind of creating, finally having a chance where it's my voice working with the right people, people who believe in my project, people who are there to support me, and just realizing how much of a great support system I was able to kind of build. And I just kind of realized, I think this is it. And so I started writing a ton. I mean, there are hundreds of demos easily of just
Nice.
like songs
Wow.
that have all been written in easily, I think it's been 2 years now. Um, and so finally, after a lot of work, I mean, we wiped my like socials completely, like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, everything, like all the DSPs, like Spotify and Apple Music, anything where there was anything of me, we
Hmm.
just completely wiped it and
Hmm.
just started over.
Hmm.
And it was really just a moment where I was kind of like, okay, this is me, this is my project, this is what I want to be doing, and here it is. And it was a really refreshing feeling, because I mean, yeah, there have been so many incredible experiences and so many opportunities and so many projects that I've worked on, and this was finally the one. Like, this is it, this is me, this is my message, this is my voice, and
Hmm.
it's out. And so I released my first single called Claustrophobic in
Hmm.
June of 2019, the day before my birthday.
Okay.
And I put it out and I was terrified. And then it hit New Music Friday on Spotify. And then I was like,
Awesome.
wait, what? And then I just basically, ever since, I've been putting out a song every month. I'm just constantly putting out songs. I've gotten so much support from different people, and just like, it was really nerve wracking because a lot of the fans on my socials were kind of there for the drumming or for YouTube or something when they had seen me on YouTube. And it was kind of scary to be like, do you guys still love me? Here's a different side of me. And they've been so incredibly supportive. It's been really eye-opening. My cat is losing her mind at the moment.
I can barely hear it, so don't worry about it. But
But
that's funny. But yeah, that's amazing. You've been putting out music ever since. I was just listening to your most recent single, Feelings. I love it. And you've been working with some crazy producers. Alex Delicata, who's worked with Beyonce and Rihanna and Lil Wayne, and Mike Molina, who's worked with Rick Ross and John Legend, and the list goes on and on. So how has that just been crazy fun for you?
it's I mean, just hearing you go through the names kind of
Mhm.
gave me chills for a second, because it's just, I don't know. I mean, it's really hard when you're in the music industry and entertainment. It really feels like you're just running in place a lot of the
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
And I mean, I think it's really crazy just to think about it, because I've just been going and going for so long and for the last few years. And it's funny because I mean, Alex Alicata and I, like, we're both under the same manager now. Like, he and
Mhm.
I are managed by the same guy. And Mike is like one of my good friends. I mean, he like hosted my birthday last year. It's just like, I mean, that's the thing is, I feel like I've gotten to the point where, yes, it's like so many incredible people, but it's just, these are my friends and this is the team that I have. And I see it less as like, oh, like I mean, they're incredible and they've worked with amazing people, but it's really just a great feeling to be able to be like, these are my peers and these are the people who are supporting me and that I'm able to collaborate with.
Sure.
Um,
Makes for the
but
best work environment.
yeah, it's just it's been amazing, and that's the great thing is in music it can be difficult because there's always that fear where it's like, am I going to be seen as less than because I haven't worked with the same artist and I haven't worked with like I haven't gotten there yet, so am I going to be seen differently? But that's the thing is so many of these people who have done these incredible things in music are some of these like kindest people you have ever met. Like I have only met like I don't think I could name more than 3 people that I've had poor experiences in sessions. I have been so incredibly fortunate where it's just like almost every single session I've had to this day has been an amazing one. I mean, there are always going to be like 1 or 2 ones where it's just like the chemistry doesn't work, but
Hmm.
I mean, I feel like I've been really lucky to be able to just meet a lot of people who are talented and killing it in the industry, but are still humble and supportive and understand where they came from and why they are where they're at now, which I
Yeah,
think is really important.
that's awesome. I think, that's what will keep them there is
Hmm.
actually being nice enough to work with, because word gets around quicker than ever nowadays.
Oh yeah.
If they aren't that way. But yeah, very fortunate that you've been working with some great people. So I think just tomorrow, I guess, for New Music Friday, you're dropping your new single, RIP. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I'm so excited. I just like clinched up. I got really excited. Yeah, so I have a single coming out tonight slash tomorrow. It's called RIP, and I'm just I feel like it's kind of hard because people ask me like what my genre is. Like a lot of questions that I get are like, "What's your genre?" and like, "What
Mm-hmm.
is like the sound?"
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this is a really important part of that because like something that I always say about my genre is that like my music changes with like it depends like what story I'm telling
Mm-hmm.
rather than the sound specifically.
Right.
And like I kind of I mean all of the songs that you hear are personal stories from my life. I mean the
Mm-hmm.
story of RIP is like I had just gotten out of a really tough relationship and had
Mm-hmm.
finally kind of taken myself out of it and ended it after a really long time. I waited way longer than I should have.
Right.
And I had finally gotten out of it and I kept having this feeling of did I make the right choice?
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like when we end relationships or when we like cut off toxic friendships, it could be anybody in your life. Like when you end something with someone, it's really hard to keep the reasons you left in your mind because
Mm-hmm.
you always want to start thinking about the good times and the
Right.
positive things,
Mm-hmm.
positive aspects of that person to the point where you're just like, wait, did I do the right thing? Like, am I regretting
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
choice I made? And I really, I really hated the feeling of anybody else having to feel like that. And I know
Mm-hmm.
that what I needed in that moment is I'm going to be fine. Like, this is the right choice. If I thought about it at all, that is the choice I need to make. If I'm
Mm-hmm.
considering getting out of this situation, then I need to because
Yeah.
I can trust my gut and I know my instincts and I know that this is something I need to move on from. And
Sure.
it's really just, I feel like RIP is really, I really want RIP to be a song for anyone who is just, if you're feeling unsure or you're getting anxious because you've like stood up for yourself and gotten out of this really bad situation, it can be hard to truly tear yourself away from it because you want to think about the good times and you start thinking about that and it starts creeping back in. But it's really just, you made the right choice. You're going to be okay. It may suck now, but at the end of the day, this choice will have been for the better. And I feel like the music really reflects that because you listen to the song and you listen to the words and the verses are talking about like the negative aspects of it. The lyrics in the song, it's like, I put in all the work while you were sitting on the side. And like, then you're feeling hurt when I said that you're no longer mine. And it's just like, yeah, because it's just kind of going through all of the phases and just kind of like the chaos of it, of the negativity. And it's just kind of somber chords and like sad feelings. And then it stops and it goes, and I'm doing just fine. Like, rest in peace to what we had. It was fun, but now it's dead. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing just fine. and it's just like the production picks up, the beat is brighter, everything is brighter, it's more upbeat, it's more powerful. It's just like, and that's how I see my music, is I don't see my music as specific genres. Like I know personally when I listen to music that like I can never listen to the same genre of music. Obviously,
Mm,
we all go through different emotions and different moods and different things where we're craving different kinds of music
right,
to kind of follow that feeling that you're
right.
in at the moment. And I feel like that's my music is, you know, I have some songs that are happy, I have some songs that are angry. I mean, I have so many different stories to tell about my life and what I've been going through the last few years that I've written so much about. And the music really reflects the feelings, just because I think since music has been such an important part of my life, I see and I hear music as feelings. So when I tell these stories, it's just like, since it's been such an integral part of my life, I hear these stories and then I hear the music and it's like it needs to, like, this needs to fit it like this and then it needs to move here. Like it's just kind of
Hmm.
crazy to explain, but
Yeah, no, I mean that's what makes a good song is you know, you were talking about the different you know, there's dynamics instrumentally, but you're also talking about like the dynamics emotionally that go into a song. So and yeah, your influences, you know, I was reading, you know, they range from Amy Winehouse to The Cure to Bob Marley, all people I love. And for those who don't know, Marley, I guess, was coined by your parents for a love of Bob Marley.
it was kind of crazy story behind the name. So I was actually I am named after Bob Marley, which is awesome. I have
Hmm.
Could You Be Loved, a song by him tattooed on my
Nice. Yeah.
in memory of him. But yeah, my parents knew that they wanted to name me Marley, and it was going to be like Marley, like
Hmm.
Bob Marley.
Hmm.
And I don't know when it was. I can't remember at what point you were looking it up, but I guess my mom, I don't know how she does it. She's crazy. She has this amazing brain and knows everything all the time, and it's frustrating because she's always right. And sure enough, my mom was like, you know, if she ends up in entertainment, maybe I should just like look her name up. And she looked my name up. She looked up Marley Murphy
Hmm.
with a E, and it turns out Marley Murphy is an award-winning adult pop star.
Oh, good. She checked the SEO on that one, huh? All
Yeah,
right, good
and
job.
I mean, I think at that moment she was like, that's, we don't want anyone to think that we named her after this woman. So,
Right, right.
but they loved the name.
Hmm.
So they just decided to change the E to an H and just make it Marlhy.
Yeah, a little more unique.
Yeah, it's a bit more unique. It's tough in classes and just Starbucks when I try to give them my
Marley,
name.
yeah.
Yeah, like I don't think my name has ever been spelled right at
Uh-huh.
Starbucks. It's only like the mobile order when I do it myself. Um, but I love it. I used to, I kind of, there was a point where I wasn't really a fan of it, just because like when like people wouldn't spell it correctly, I would just like, I would get like, I would feel self-conscious of the fact that my name was difficult to spell, and
Hmm.
that was just
Hmm.
why I didn't really like it. But I think that was just high school too. I think when you're in high school you just kind of feel self-conscious about everything about yourself, because looking back
Yeah,
on it, like, my name is sick, like it's
yeah.
something unique to me and something that kind of helps me with my image and my identity. It's something that's true to me and unique to me. And
Yeah, I think that's I think that's a thing a lot of little kids have. You know, they don't like their name or they don't like their nicknames. But then when you get old enough or just secure enough, you're like, no, that's funny. It's fun. You know, like I grew up. My relatives and my parents would call me Sean. You know, my name's Sean. Middle name starts with an E, so they'd call me Shawnee. You know, and I always thought it
oh,
sounded lame when I was a kid, and I was like, so I wouldn't want them to call me that in front of my friends. But now I'm like, call me whatever you want. I don't care. Well, Marley, thanks so much for telling us the story. We'll look out for RIP dropping tomorrow, and amazing musical journey so far. So thanks for sharing it with us. We like to end the interview just by asking a question. If you had one piece of advice to give to aspiring artists, what do you think that would be?
oh. I would say I mean, I think there's a few things, but I think the one thing that I need to say is it's it was kind of the thing that I was talking about where sometimes it feels like you're running in place. I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of times, especially in the entertainment industry, it's hard to not compare yourself to other people. Like you
Mm-hmm.
see other people, especially with how much of a big part the internet is in our lives to this
Yeah.
day. It's really hard to ignore people who are similar to you who are succeeding when you
Mm-hmm.
aren't. And the thing is, at the end of the day, we all had to come from somewhere. We all have a journey, and no one journey is the same. Like,
Mm-hmm.
nobody's journey in music and entertainment and anything in life, none of our journeys are going to be identical. And that's something that I really had to learn and just kind of understand that it's not one, the journey isn't going to be easy. It's not going to be the same to anyone else's. And the biggest thing that I learned is to take the word no, because there's so many times in music and especially on the internet, on social media, on everything, there are always going to be people who don't like you or say no. There are going to be so many no's, but in the end, as long as you have the courage and the strength to keep pushing and wait, like as long as you can be patient. I'm so impatient, but I've had to
Mm-hmm.
learn that I have a love for music so much that I'm willing to keep pushing because I know that there is somebody out there who's going to say yes, and that's what I'm going to need to be able to move forward, because that's where my life has been so far. You know, there have been so many people that have said no. There are always going to be, but
Yeah.
there are those few people who have said yes and have helped me get to where I am today. And I'm so incredibly grateful for that. So that's just kind of what I keep telling myself to keep pushing forward is there are going to be no's, but you just got to keep pushing for that yes, because it isn't going to come easily.
Bringing it backward.